Ever notice how some people seem to get a thrill from testing your boundaries? They'll cut you off mid-sentence, throw in a few passive, aggressive remarks, or act like your time, energy, and feelings are something they can take for granted. And society often expects us to simply smile, nod, and let it slide. But you know what? Not today. If you're fed up with tolerating people who don't respect you or your boundaries, you're exactly where you need to be. In this video, I'm going to share some brutally honest, and yes, maybe a bit controversial, strategies to handle disrespect without losing your cool, and more importantly, without compromising your self-respect. This is about taking back your space, your dignity, and your power. So, buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll have all the tools you need to show others precisely where your line is drawn. If you're serious about learning how to command respect, make sure to subscribe to Victory in Silence. For more transformative insights, listen all the way to the end and share this video with friends who deserve the same empowerment. Ready? Let's dive right in. One of my all-time favorite techniques, and trust me, it's slightly savage, is the silent stare. Now you might be wondering, really, just staring? But yes, just hear me out on this. When someone is being openly disrespectful, there's almost nothing more disarming than a calm, steady, and completely unbothered stare. Here's why this works. People who choose to disrespect others usually do so because they're hoping to provoke a reaction. They want to see you flustered, hear you stumble, or even watch you snap back. It's part of their attempt to control the narrative, to make you feel smaller, or even to drag you down to their level. But when you respond with a steady, unyielding gaze, no words, no expressions, no emotion, it sends a message that catches them off guard. In that moment, the power dynamic flips, and suddenly, they're the ones who feel exposed. Now, I get it. This may sound a little passive-aggressive, but there's a deeper logic to it. When you withhold the reaction they were expecting, something shifts. That silence speaks volumes. It tells them, I see right through this, and I'm not engaging. This is a way to reclaim control without saying a word or lifting a finger. Often, that silent stare becomes the clearest, most powerful no you could ever give. Let me share a personal example of just how effective this can be. I was in a meeting with a guy who clearly had a habit of bulldozing others, interrupting, talking over me as if his opinions were the only ones that mattered. You know the type, loud, overconfident, convinced the room is hanging on his every word. I tried polite interjections. I tried letting him finish, but he wouldn't stop. Finally, I just leaned back, crossed my arms, and looked right at him. 5 seconds of unblinking, unfazed silence. No reaction, no expression, just a steady gaze. You could feel the room's energy change. It was as if the air itself became charged. And the best part, other people started noticing. All eyes shifted to him, waiting to see what he would do next. Suddenly, he stumbled over his words, grew visibly uncomfortable, and finally looked away. For the rest of the meeting, he didn't interrupt me once. Not only that, but from that day forward, he treated me with a level of respect that hadn't been there before. This silent stare tactic works for more than just quieting a rude interruption. It reinforces your own inner sense of self-worth. When you're able to stand there in silence, unaffected, it's a reminder to both them and yourself that you don't owe anyone a reaction. Their attempts to test your boundaries won't shake your sense of self or force you to play along in their drama. We often feel the urge to defend ourselves, to explain or justify our actions, or worse, to just let things slide because we don't want to create a scene. But the silent stare isn't about being aggressive. It's about demonstrating an inner stability, an unshakable calm that says, I respect myself enough not to stoop to your level. It's about holding firm, showing them that your boundaries are solid and that their attempts to break them are futile. Another profound layer to this is that, for people who habitually disrespect others, The silent stare acts as a mirror. They're suddenly left to face their own behavior without the usual back and forth that distracts them from it. Instead of telling them they're wrong, you're simply letting them see it. And trust me, most people aren't comfortable with what they see. Beyond the immediate impact on the other person, the silent stare can be transformative for you too. In my own experience, I used to brush off rude comments or nervously laugh when someone questioned me, but all that did was drain my energy. Learning to stay still and let silence speak for itself was a game changer. It's a small but powerful way to declare, I know my worth. And so, next time someone tries to push your boundaries or make you feel small, try the silent stare. Let them feel the weight of your calm resolve. You may be surprised at how it shifts the entire interaction, and how empowered you feel in return. The silent stare is a declaration. I value myself too much to get pulled into your negativity. And that's a message worth sending. 2. Embrace silence as your answer. Here's a little-known secret weapon. One that's powerful yet incredibly underrated: silence. When someone disrespects you, one of the strongest responses can be no response at all. Now, I know what you might be thinking: silence can feel passive, almost like you're just letting them get away with it. But here's the reality. Silence is anything but passive. It's a deliberate choice, and, in some situations, it's the boldest, loudest answer you can give. When someone is throwing negativity your way, they're looking to pull you into their narrative. They want you to react, to defend yourself, to get sucked into a back and forth that ultimately leaves you feeling drained or even questioning your own worth. But when you don't engage, when you let their words simply linger in the air unanswered, you force them to sit alone with what they just said. And that silence, it can be deafening. This technique works so effectively because people who show disrespect often rely on reactions to validate their behavior. They're looking for a fight, an explanation, or some form of emotional response that makes them feel justified in what they're doing. But when you answer with silence, it's a clear message that you're not giving them any part of your energy. By not engaging, you're keeping control over the conversation. You're saying, without a single word, I'm not here to entertain your disrespect. Sometimes the most impactful way to communicate is by choosing not to communicate at all. This sends a quiet, powerful reminder that their attempt to rattle you isn't even worth your time or words. I remember once dealing with someone who had a habit of hiding insults within jokes. You know the type. Making digs at you and passing it off as calling good fun. One day, he said something completely unnecessary and disrespectful about my work, clearly meant to get a reaction out of me. Normally, I'd have felt the need to explain myself or even throw back a pointed comment. But this time, I just looked at him, raised an eyebrow, and said nothing. I let his words hang in the air, forcing him to sit in that awkward, unfilled pause. You know what happened? He didn't know what to do. He stumbled, looked away, mumbled something incoherent, and moved on. And from that moment on, he never tried that tactic with me again. He realized that without a reaction from me, there was no power to be gained. And that's the beauty of silence. It deprives disrespect of the attention it craves. There's a profound message in this. When you choose silence, you're choosing yourself. You're saying, I value my peace more than I value your opinion of me. And that's not just empowering, it's revolutionary. So often we feel obligated to explain, defend, or even prove ourselves to people who have no interest in respecting us. But by embracing silence, you're refusing to play by their rules. You're taking a stand without even needing to move. You're telling them, you're not worth my words. And it's not just about controlling the immediate situation, it's about reclaiming your energy, protecting your peace from those who would try to invade it. Think of silence as a filter. It allows you to maintain your equilibrium, shielding your inner world from the negativity that others might attempt to project onto you. The moment you release the need to respond to every snide comment or passive-aggressive jab, you begin freeing yourself. You're no longer giving anyone the keys to disturb your inner peace, and that's when you start living on your own terms. I'll be real with you. Learning to embrace silence wasn't easy for me, either. There was a time when I believed that if I didn't speak up or defend myself, I'd appear weak or passive. But I began to notice something interesting. Every time I responded to people who didn't respect me, I ended up feeling more exhausted and frustrated than ever. The times I chose to hold my tongue, to let their words pass by like white noise, I felt different. I felt stronger, lighter, more in control. Every time I picked silence over a reaction, I took back a piece of my power. So here's my challenge to you. The next time someone tries to disrespect you, just pause. Take a deep breath, look them in the eye, and say nothing. Let your silence speak. You might be surprised at how uncomfortable they become, and at how free you feel. Embrace silence as your answer, because sometimes saying nothing at all is the most powerful statement you can make. 3. Stop explaining your choices. This one's likely to strike a chord with many of us. Stop explaining your choices. Think about it. How many times have you made a decision that felt right for you, only to have someone immediately ask, why? Why did you skip that event? Why did you turn down that job offer? Society seems to operate on this notion that everyone is somehow owed an explanation for the paths we choose. Here's the blunt truth. They're not. Your decisions belong solely to you, and you owe no one an explanation for how you live your life. It might sound controversial, but let's face it. If someone is constantly questioning your choices, it's often not because they're genuinely curious or supportive. More often, they're looking for something to critique, trying to make sense of your actions in a way that aligns with their own judgments or insecurities. Sometimes, they even want to feel better about their choices by making you second-guess yours. But here's the game changer: you don't have to play along. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you reclaim your autonomy and set a boundary. A clear signal that your life isn't a community project open for debate. Let's dive a bit deeper into why people feel so entitled to an explanation in the first place. Often, it's because your decisions challenge their own worldviews or comfort zones. Maybe you're taking a risk they've never dared to take. Or maybe you're choosing a path that defies convention, something they've always played safe with. Your choice to step outside the lines can make people uncomfortable, and in their discomfort, they try to fit you back into a box they find familiar. But here's the kicker: their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your life is not a public service announcement, and you don't need to justify your actions to anyone. I remember when I made a career change, moving from a secure, traditional role into something I was genuinely passionate about, but which came with more risk. As soon as people heard, it was as if I'd announced I was relocating to another planet. The questions flooded in. Why would you leave a stable job? How will you make it work? At first, I tried to answer. I talked about how I wanted something more meaningful, how I'd mapped out my plans. But no matter how thorough my explanation, it was never enough. People would keep prodding, keep questioning, and each time it left me feeling like I had to prove my worth. Then, one day I took a different approach. When someone asked, "Why would you leave a secure job?" I simply replied, "Because I wanted to." No extra details, no explanations. Just a simple, straightforward answer. And let me tell you, the silence that followed was everything. People didn't know how to respond, and gradually the questions faded. By choosing not to explain myself, I took away their ability to question my choices further, and they eventually stopped asking. There's a powerful freedom in refusing to explain yourself. When you stop justifying your actions, You give yourself the space to live authentically, unburdened by other people's expectations. You conserve your energy, pouring it back into living the life you want rather than wasting it on defending choices that are rightfully yours. There's a fundamental lesson here. Your life does not require an audience vote. Not every decision has to be dissected or approved by others. When you stop explaining yourself, you're telling the world, I am confident enough in my choices that I don't need your approval. Think about it. When was the last time you saw a truly confident person breaking down their choices for everyone else's understanding? Rarely, if ever. People who own their lives don't seek validation because they're secure in the knowledge that the only approval that matters is their own. I've been on both sides of this. I used to be the type who would give a full presentation on why I was doing something, hoping to get everyone on board with my decisions. But over time, I realized that constantly explaining myself only opened the door to second guessing and self-doubt. So, I made a pact with myself. If someone asked about my decision, I'd offer a brief answer. 1 or 2 sentences, nothing more. If they pushed, I'd simply smile and let it be. And you know what? Life became a lot lighter. The less I explained, the more confidence I found in my own choices. So here's the truth, your choices are valid simply because you made them. You don't need anyone else's stamp of approval. When you resist the urge to explain yourself, you'll find a new kind of power and peace. You'll realize that your life, and the way you choose to live, is enough just as it is. 4. Keep your distance. Let's be real. Sometimes the healthiest, most self-respecting move you can make is to put a little distance between yourself and people who don't respect you. This isn't about being harsh or cold. It's about recognizing your worth and protecting your energy. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. And if someone consistently disrespects you, stepping back can be one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you can take. Keeping your distance doesn't mean you hold grudges or that you're being dramatic. It means you respect yourself enough to choose where and how you spend your time and energy. Think of your life as a limited access club. Everyone doesn't get a VIP pass. If someone's constantly crossing your boundaries, making you feel small, or radiating negativity, why keep them close? It's perfectly fine to step back, and in fact, it's essential. Sometimes, distance is what we need to gain clarity, free from the fog of emotional manipulation or guilt. With space, we can see things as they really are, without someone's constant, undermining influence clouding our view. When you allow disrespectful people to remain close, it's like inviting them to an endless emotional buffet. They take, they criticize, they judge, often without limits, and we wonder why we feel drained, anxious, or even resentful. Giving yourself some space from these individuals is an act of self-preservation. It's about protecting your mental health, preserving your peace, and making room for people who genuinely respect and uplift you. Releasing yourself from the guilt of needing distance can be liberating. You are not obligated to keep disrespectful people in your life just because of societal expectations or past history. I remember a friend I used to have who, no matter what, would find a way to make snide remarks about my choices, my career, my relationships, my taste in music. Everything was up for judgment. At first I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was overreacting, or that this was just how they are. But over time, the constant jabs started to affect me. I noticed I'd brace myself every time I saw them, almost like walking on eggshells, waiting for the next critical comment disguised as a joke. One day, I decided to take a different approach. I didn't make a big scene or try to confront them. Instead, I quietly started seeing them less. From weekly hangouts, it became once a month. And what happened next surprised me. I felt lighter, freer. With that space, I began to see just how much that friendship had drained me. Distancing myself allowed me to see clearly that I deserved friends who would lift me up, not tear me down. Some people might say that keeping your distance is selfish. You'll hear things like, "But they're family," or "You've known them for years." Society often teaches us to be loyal, forgiving, and accommodating, but at what cost? Here's a truth that's hard for many to accept: protecting your peace is not selfish. It's necessary. You're not here to be anyone's emotional punching bag or a constant source of validation for their insecurities. Sometimes, the most impactful way to say, "I've had enough," is by stepping back. Keeping your distance is a reminder of something crucial. You are your own priority. You don't have to play the role someone else has assigned you. And you don't owe anyone access to your mind, your time, or your emotions. When you create a boundary between yourself and those who show disrespect, you're making a clear statement that your well-being matters. This isn't just self-care. It's an act of self-respect. Distance also gives you a chance to recalibrate, to focus on relationships that genuinely matter, and to make room for people who uplift you. Think about it. The more time you spend around people who respect and encourage you, the more fulfilled and confident you feel. And the less time you spend around those who tear you down, the less room they have to influence your thoughts, your mood, and your overall outlook on life. I used to feel guilty about distancing myself from people, even when they weren't treating me well. I'd worry about what they'd think, or wonder if I was overreacting. But with time, I realized that creating distance wasn't just about avoiding negativity. It was about creating space for growth and self-discovery. The more I allowed myself to step back from disrespectful people, the more energy, peace, and clarity I gained. I was able to see my life with a new perspective and focus on relationships that genuinely brought joy and support. So, here's a question worth pondering. Think about the people in your life who regularly disrespect you, those who leave you feeling small, drained, or undervalued. Then, ask yourself, do they truly deserve such a close place in your life? 5. Hold your head high. Let's talk about an age-old principle that never loses its power: holding your head high. It sounds simple, maybe even a bit cliched, but there's a reason it's survived the ages. Standing tall and maintaining your self-respect, especially in the face of disrespect, is one of the strongest statements you can make. Here's the truth: disrespect is a tactic people use to make you feel small. They want you to lower your gaze, to withdraw, to question yourself. When someone's being dismissive, rude, or condescending, they're often trying to control the narrative by controlling how you feel about yourself. But when you hold your head high, you're silently sending a message that says, "I know my worth, and your words don't define me." There's something profoundly powerful in this kind of confidence. It creates a presence that others notice, especially those who try to disrespect you. Why? Because it strips them of the control they thought they had. People who belittle others rely on their ability to unsettle, to create doubt, and to plant insecurity. When you stand tall, physically and mentally, you're making it clear that their attempts to bring you down are futile. They lose the satisfaction of seeing you react or shrink. Instead, they're faced with a version of you that is untouchable, and that can be deeply unsettling for them. I remember a time when I found myself around someone who loved to throw little digs my way. You know the type. Subtle smirks, offhanded remarks disguised as jokes. Comments that seemed harmless on the surface but carried a sting. I used to brush it off, but the truth is, those jabs started to get to me. I found myself dreading each interaction, bracing for the next comment, and feeling like I had to be on guard all the time. But then something shifted. One day, I made a decision: no more letting anyone make me feel less. I showed up with my shoulders back, my head held high, and I made eye contact that was unwavering. Each time one of those comments came, I didn't flinch. I just smiled, looked them straight in the eye, and carried on. It didn't take long for them to realize their words weren't landing. Their power to influence my emotions simply faded, and with it, their sense of control. There's a kind of magnetism in holding your head high. It's like a force field that shields you from petty negativity and keeps you grounded in who you are. It radiates strength, independence, and a quiet assurance that you're above the fray. People who don't respect you often hate seeing this. It shakes their worldview. They want to believe they're in control or that they can rattle you, and when you remain steadfast, it's as if their narrative starts to crumble. Society, too, sometimes struggles with individuals who refuse to let others dictate their sense of worth. People who are unapologetically confident, who don't let negativity touch them, are often misunderstood or seen as intimidating. There's a certain power in being sure of yourself, in knowing your value, that makes others uncomfortable. And sometimes, yes, it can make you a target for those who can't handle self-assurance. But here's the key: holding your head high isn't about them. It's about you. It's about knowing that your value doesn't come from anyone else's opinion. It's about embracing yourself. Worth is something innate, unshakable, something you don't need to prove to anyone. Living this way, fully aware of your own dignity, free from the need for external validation, can feel radical, even rebellious, but at its core, it's simply the truest form of self-respect. When you hold your head high, you're making a profound statement about your self-worth. You're declaring to the world, and more importantly to yourself, that you're valuable, deserving of respect, and inherently enough. Here's the truth: self-worth isn't something that comes from external validation. It's something you claim from within, no matter what others think or say. Walking through life with your head high shows that you recognize you already have everything you need within you. You're complete, and no one's opinion can alter that. This posture, this stance of quiet strength, becomes a constant reminder: you are the main character in your own story, and no one else's opinion has the power to make you feel less. And the beauty of this mindset: the more you practice it, the less other people's disrespect will even register in your mind. You'll be too secure in your own lane, too focused on your own growth, to be bothered by anyone's attempts to knock you down. For me, this wasn't something that came naturally. I used to be the person who'd slouch, avoid eye contact, and shrink myself when faced with criticism or dismissal. It felt safer to disappear, to make myself small. But over time, I realized that every time I stood tall and refused to let someone's negativity touch me, I felt stronger. It was as if each act of resilience was a reminder that I didn't need anyone else's approval to feel worthy. I could simply stand tall in who I was, unwavering. Holding your head high isn't just about physical posture, it's about mental posture. It's about entering every room with the confidence that you belong there. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's limited view of you. If someone makes a cutting comment or tries to bring you down, let it roll off you. Those comments don't define you, they reflect the speaker's own insecurities. Why let someone else's projections bother you? So here's my challenge to you. The next time someone disrespects you, whether it's through a subtle dig or an outright insult, don't let them see a reaction. Take a deep breath, pull your shoulders back, and keep your head high. Look them straight in the eye, as if to say, "I see you, but I'm above this." You'll feel a surge of confidence. A peace that comes from knowing their words hold no power over you. Holding your head high is more than just good posture. It's a powerful, silent statement of your self-respect. It says, "I know who I am, I value who I am, and nothing you say can change that." Because here's the thing: respect begins with you. The more you honor and respect yourself, the less room there is for anyone else's disrespect to take root. Stand tall, own your worth, and remember that you deserve every ounce of that confidence. And there you have it: ways to handle people who don't get it, and maybe never will. Life is too precious to spend bending over backward for those who fail to see your worth. You don't need anyone's permission to stand tall. Protect your peace, hold firm to your boundaries, and live life on your terms. Yes, people may try to test you, to bring you down, or to question your choices. But here's the truth. You get to decide what energy you allow into your space, and you get to set the standard for how you're treated. And the best part, the more you focus on self-respect, the more you'll naturally attract people who recognize your worth, who uplift you instead of dragging you down. It all starts with you. Embrace your power, let your strength set the tone, and watch as everything else falls into place. So hold your head high, embrace the quiet strength that comes from self-worth, and never apologize for walking away from what doesn't serve you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If this message resonated, give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to Victory in Silence for more content on living confidently and owning your life. Share this with someone who needs a reminder to stand tall, and drop a comment below with your own story of handling disrespect or setting boundaries. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, stay strong, stand tall, and remember, respect begins with you.